The most important thing to understand is that your intuition is a function of your body. It's not some mystical, magical power that comes from the outside.
So it's like smell, taste.
It's a combination of all the intelligences of your body. If you take your capacity how to see things, how to smell things, how to feel things, psychologically, physically, emotionally, sexually, financially, in every aspect, every territory of existence, when everything is, all the information that comes through, all together integrated as a single picture, rendered into a single image of reality, I call that intuition. I call that your highest intelligence. So in order for that, the body has to be well taken care of. Step number 1, breath. Your body needs a continuous flow of oxygen and carbon dioxide that's changing at different levels based on your level of activity. So your level of activity sitting down is obviously different than when you're running. But if you're thinking more, you're sitting and meditating, in a meditative state, you're using less energy than if you're thinking through something. This will also tie in with blood sugar levels and hydration. So the main things are going to be oxygen, carbon dioxide mix that's going through your body, hydration levels, and blood sugar levels. These are the 3 dials and gauges that you need to keep an eye on so that your craft will stay. Hydration, oxygen, carbon dioxide mix, and blood sugar levels. Those are the top 3.
Which blood sugar level is good?
So, steady blood sugar levels. It doesn't matter what blood sugar levels, but steady. Yeah. So, with breathing, you want to make sure that you are breathing in a certain way. And you have to figure out how your body functions with different types of breaths. So it's good to practice breathing in different ways. They have in yoga, there's pranayama exercises that you can breathe, so that you can learn that your body can breathe, what it feels like to have shallow breaths or full breaths, right? Breathing through one nostril or through the other. These are things just to experiment with and taste. Not to practice as a ritual or as a religion, but to just get to know what it feels like in your body. So the first thing to know about breath is that if you take a breath, you have to find what that number is, right? Well, how it works. But for most people, if you can take a breath where you're breathing in like this, hold for a second, and then you breathe out. Hold for a second, breathe in. And while you're doing that, you're noticing that your breath is filling the entire cavity. You're not overfilling yourself, maybe filling the 75% capacity, but your stomach and your chest is expanding, so your back needs to be properly aligned. Just breathe in and you breathe out. And what I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to ask you just to do that 5, 6, 7, 10 times, and just notice what happens to your mind and to your thought process and how you feel in your body at the top of each breath and at the bottom of each breath. Right? So I'm going to ask you just to sit like you are right now and just breathe, and I'll breathe with you, and you'll get a natural rhythm going. So it's unnecessary to actually count in your head. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary. And then just breathe in. And just keep going on your own. What your body has built into it, what all bodies have built into, is that at the top of each breath and at the bottom of each breath, your thinking process stops for a split second. Now, most people just breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, very shallow breaths or deep breaths or whatever it is, but you don't stop to actually watch your mental process at the top of each breath and at the bottom of each breath. Here, you're in a natural setting. There's nice, clean, fresh air. You're surrounded by flowers. You're pretty much open to nature but protected. And you can't think at the top of each breath or at the bottom of each breath. That's right. You can't think at the top of each breath and the bottom of each breath. Which means that you have a window where you're going to a reality where when you're not pressing the buttons on the walkie-talkie and now suddenly you're receiving whatever is coming in. That's at the top of each breath and at the bottom of each breath for your entire life.
So an intuition might come in.
Well, when your mind is off, when you learn to be comfortable, mind off, then intuition comes through. Sometimes in moments of tremendous fear or intense experiences, people hold their breath. Thinking stops, and then the intuitive flash comes through. But that's accidental because you're not putting any conscious awareness into the process. But what if you knew that anytime you can just stop breathing, and you just stop your breath. And then notice when your mind starts to pick up again. So by putting awareness into your breath, you can notice at the top of the breath and at the bottom of the breath, there's these little quick windows when your projector is paused temporarily. It's been now scientifically linked that how your wiring is for your nervous system, for breathing and thinking, that they're linked in together. Physical connections have been mapped out. But you can actually feel it and experience it. So even if they've never been mapped out, it wouldn't change the facticity of it. That at the top of each breath and the bottom of each breath. So what you can now do for the rest of your life experience is put awareness into your breath anytime, or all the time, and notice mind stopping, and then it'll start again. And then at the bottom it'll stop again, and then it'll start again. What you can do is you can pay attention to what thoughts are coming in and see whether they're thoughts that are really worth having or not. Because they might just be junk mail. Might just be nonsense thoughts, distractions, random thoughts, attachments, fears, hopes, dreams, desires, just some song that keeps going around in your head, just whatever it is, it's preventing you from being present in the moment, mind off, which is a requirement for intuition to come on. Because you're either projecting or receiving. You're not doing both. Right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So learning how to just be aware of your breath at any given moment allows you to consciously at least take care of your body in a way so that it will be mind off as much as possible. Which means that allows the most time for your intuition to come back on again. And what we're looking for, as far as this work is concerned, is how to live in an intuitive state always. And you take out of yourself into an intuitive state to think. Most people think their way through life the entire time, and occasionally they have to feel their way. Usually after they've had a crash or an accident or a heart attack or an ulcer or a breakdown, and then they're like, oh, okay, I have to reevaluate my life because you bump into reality because you're not seeing it. Or you go through a divorce or something happens, right? Somebody discovers that they have an illness, and the illness didn't just show up one day to the other. It's been building for the past 10, 20 years, and they've been ignoring the signs and signals of it. Taking care of your body, at the very least, you won't ignore your body. And you'll stay away from living a lifestyle that will end up in some life-threatening illness, right? Some degenerative disease or something that affects you, right? Does that make sense? Right? So knowing that you can do that with your breath alone is invaluable because you want to get to a space where even while you're breathing in, breathing out, you can just stay present, mind off, awareness on, everything else on and functioning, mind off. That's it. Right? Does that make sense? So you can find that. Now, how long will it stay on or off? Well, that depends on a series of factors. As far as your biology is concerned, if you are dehydrated, your body will be under continuous stress. If your body is under stress, then your mind will malfunction. You will feel more stress, more fear, more anxiety. You'll panic more easily. You'll get overwhelmed more easily. So not getting enough oxygen is number one, because if you don't get oxygen for 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to pass out. This is a clean glass and there's plenty of water. Right? Does that make sense? Not being hydrated properly means that you're going to last a couple of days. With no water, you wouldn't last a week. With no breath, you won't last 7 minutes, but with no water, you'll barely last 7 days, right? and it won't be comfortable. So one of the things that I've learned is to never leave a source of water thirsty. I leave my house hungry because I want to go to a restaurant. I obviously don't eat to get to the restaurant. But even if I'm going to go to the watering hole, I still hydrate myself first before I get there. So poor breathing, shallow breathing, tight breathing instead of relaxed. It just immediately relaxes. So much so that there are people who have discovered that they can smoke a cigarette, and a lot of times it's the first big breath of the day. Even though it's full of, it's the only time they ever fly. And even though it's full of poison, because it's a full breath, for a moment their mind stops. Now on top of that, they're adding poisons that, like carbon monoxide, that stops oxygen from going into your mind so that your mind shuts off. So it's like a shut-off, an emergency shut-off. But it's a bit violent and a bit toxic, right? So after doing that for many, many years, it'll hurt you, it'll damage you. But there are ways of taking temporary pauses, but all that's actually required is just to take that breath. That's the only requirement. So breath awareness is brought into a lot of meditation practices. But then people, all they do is think about how they're breathing and force their body to breathe in a certain way. Some yogis will do that, just breathe in a certain way. And then you're not allowing your body the natural, spontaneous breath that it needs. Right? Does that make sense? So dehydration. How to know if you're properly hydrated or not? Well, if you feel thirsty, drink before you get thirsty. Does that make sense?
I never feel the thirsty, I just feel a dry mouth.
So as soon as you feel dry mouth, you just start drinking.
That's thirsty.
That's thirsty. And then the way to know the water that's coming in, if it's the right amount of water, is to monitor your urine. And your urine, which is water, it's blood ultrafiltrate, right? It's coming out of your body. Your urine should be clear. If it's turbid, then it might have an infection or some issue that's coming up. It has to be clear and light yellow. And it shouldn't have any strong smells. Unless you just ate asparagus or something like that, then it'll have a strong smell. Right? And it's blood ultrafiltrate. And if you were to actually just cross the stream with your finger and taste it, it should be slightly sweet and slightly salty. It should taste like coconut water. Because it's blood ultrafiltrate. It's the juice that's inside your body that's being just squeezed through a filter, your kidneys, collected in your bladder and put out. So it's what's inside of you. And it's like coconut water. As a matter of fact, during, I believe it's the Vietnam War, it was discovered, or World War II, it was discovered that you could give people direct transfusions of coconut water, and that would sustain them directly into your blood with a sterile needle. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if your urine is too dark, too concentrated, too strong, then you need more water. And if it's always clear like water, it means you're not getting enough vitamins or you're drinking too much water. So you need to then rebalance because you don't want to be in a space where you clear yourself out so much. So I tend to drink enough water that in the morning when I wake up, my urine is more concentrated. But then I drink water and I have a nice breakfast and it dilutes itself. It's a light, clear yellow. It doesn't have a strong smell. It doesn't have a strong flavor. And then at some point, depending on my level of activity, if it's very hot, I'll drink more water. It might get to a point where it's clear like water, but then my next meal will provide me with an excess of nutrients. And then the next time, it will have a slight yellow and it'll look like urine again. So I keep it balanced, but I allow it to go a little more concentrated and a little bit lighter. A little bit concentrated, a little bit lighter. This works best for my body. All right, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Same with my breath. It stays pretty even, but sometimes I breathe more, sometimes I breathe less. Otherwise, there's a pretty even breath. There's a pretty even fluids in my body, and the air, the oxygen, and the water, and the carbon dioxide. Everything's being maintained at a certain basic level, certain
That's
bandwidth.
probably why you're so calm in the 3 days at JT's. Because when you're controlling your breath, you're not trying to say the next word.
Right. Well, I'm not controlling. I'm not controlling. I'm monitoring.
Yeah, monitoring.
And when I monitor it, it adjusts itself all by itself. It's self-adjusting. If I'm monitoring it, I can tell when I'm breathing, if I need to breathe more or breathe less. It just happens all by itself. I'm not forcing it. I'm not controlling it. There's nobody controlling it. I'm just noticing that a bigger breath feels better than a smaller breath. And other times, a smaller breath feels better than a bigger breath. So what to do? I just do whatever feels best. My only focus is on maintaining a steady state of feeling yummy in my body. Right?
Yeah.
And I like to use the word yummy and yucky because it's pretty, like, you know what's yummy for you?
Yeah.
Right. You know when somebody's having a yummy experience? They're like, you know they're like, right? Your child's eating a chocolate or eating whatever it is they love, ice cream, and they're covered in ice cream and they love it. It's so yummy, right? So you know what's yummy for you, and you know what's yucky for you.
Being around toxic people.
Yeah. Well, whatever is yucky for you, whatever is yummy for you, you put your awareness. So breathe in whatever way allows you to feel the yummiest. Ta-da! That's it. That's the yoga of breath. It's the only thing I'm concerned with. Okay, and eat and drink foods that will allow you to feel yummy in your body. Yummy before, yummy during, and yummy after. So thinking about eating that salad, that raw food, that just feels yummy. And then you eat it, and it's delicious in your mouth. And if you eat too much of it, right? If I gave you 10 kilos of the raw food that was so yummy 2 days ago to eat and keep eating it, would it stay yummy? It wouldn't be yummy anymore. So yummy tells you when to stop eating. Doesn't it? So then maintain that. Because life is a yummy experience. So in order to get into the fast lane, into the yummy lane of experience, you need to accelerate to the speed of yum. It's a strange way to talk, but you get what I'm saying, right? It kind of goes a little bit deeper than your language. It kind of gets into your body, because your body knows what yummy is, right? So we're looking at breathing and hydrating and tuning ourselves so that our higher focus is to, this body's got to feel good. When it feels good, it's relaxed. Relaxed and energized. They can get up and dance, and you can play with your kids, or you can just sit quietly and do nothing. And if no one's bothering you, boy, it's just so rich. So you're perfectly happy alone. Nobody's bothering you. You feel so good in your body, right? Or now there's something to do. There's a challenge. Great. I'm going to go and I'm going to resolve this challenge. I'm going to fix it, whatever it is. And because you're feeling yummy at the baseline, and you take care of yourself, you can then take action. Taking action feels good. It feels yummy too. Not yummy are just yummy in a different way. Right? Just like there's yummy strawberries, and there's yummy mangoes, and there's yummy chocolate, and then there's yummy shower that just feels so good, or massage that just feels so good. The different flavors, different experiences of yum. Right? Does that make sense? Because when you are in a state of complete yumminess, once again to use this strange language, there's no thoughts. You're just completely caught up, absorbed in the experience. Right? So breathe in whichever way. Like, breathing feels good. When you breathe the right way, it feels good. Just the fact that to be able to breathe, some natural gratitude should just come out from I'm alive, breathing nice fresh air, and you just, I'm not going to compromise that for anything or anyone. Right? Same, staying hydrated. And then when it comes to food, there's 2 levels. At the first level, there's the basic mechanics of the body. And this is, you want to maintain steady blood sugar levels. And I'll draw that out for you so you have a sense of what that means. And additionally, you also need to give your body the nutrients it requires in order to have everything it needs. Right? Does that make sense?
Oxygenation graph. Here what we see is that the level of oxygen and carbon dioxide that we intake has an impact on the pH, or the level of acidity in our blood, where if we have a low amount of oxygen and a high amount of carbon dioxide in our blood, like when we're under breathing, our blood levels can be dangerously acidic. when we have even breaths in and even breaths out, this is we're in a neutral zone, which allows us peak performance. And if we overbreathe or hyperventilate, then our body goes into a certain degree of alkalosis, where we have more oxygen in our blood and less carbon dioxide. And this also results in a loss of function and also puts us into fight or flight. So for most of us, in a modern life of today, we want to be able to maintain nice, steady, even breaths in and out. So if we have a low level of activity, we have small breath in, small breath out, small breath in, small breath out, nice and slow, nice and relaxed, like when we're sleeping. Our pH is neutral. And then, as we engage in greater and greater levels of activity, we want to be able to breathe in and out more oxygen and breathe out more carbon dioxide. By doing that, we maintain nice peak performance breaths. So for example, if I want to go for a run, or I'm going to dance, or I'm going to have some form of intense physical activity, I make sure to breathe deeper, stronger, faster breaths in and nice, strong breaths out. And if I have a very intense physical activity, I'm making sure to breathe in as much oxygen as I can and breathe out all the carbon dioxide as quickly as possible, because I want to be able to stay at peak performance. So this is something that you can test. And I have a series of breathing exercises for you to try that allow you to experience what happens when your body goes from being neutral to alkaline, back to neutral, to acidic, and then back up to neutral again. And these are included at the end of our program. Hydration level and performance graph. So what we're looking at this graph is we're looking at our body has a specific amount of water that allows us to perform at peak performance. Because remember, our cells are like tiny little batteries, and they have electrolytes and they have a certain amount of water. And the 30, 50, 100 trillion cells in our bodies, each with a tiny microliter amount of water, each of these cells need a certain amount of water in order to function properly as batteries. So we have a 2-liter window of water where we can lose up to 2 liters of water and still stay within good performance. And then we have like a window of like 1 liter plus or minus half a liter of water, which is just a couple of glasses of water, right? So as long as we stay in this range here, we're in the good. And if we stay in this range, we're at peak performance. In other words, too much water can reduce our performance. And if you drink way too much water, you can have water poisoning. You can actually hurt yourself because you can lose too many electrolytes. Same as if you become dehydrated. As you lose hydration levels, you can reduce your efficiency, and of course we can die of dehydration. So it's important to, once again, learn how to titrate, learn how to calibrate, learn how to just figure out how much water the unique individual thinking, feeling body needs in order to performance, for your performance to be at peak or at least at good performance. So, and then we're looking at our activity levels and how our water levels will drop. So you have a glass of water before going to bed because you're going to lose some water. You're going to sweat it out, especially if you're in a climate controlled space where there's drying air conditioning or heating, or you're in a very hot place. Your body has a capacity to lose water. But you can figure out how much water you need to drink to be able to sleep 8 hours and wake up at peak performance without having to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Then you wake up and you drink a liter of water, and that brings you to peak performance. And then depending on whether you're having low level, medium level, high level, or extra high level of activity, our hydration levels will drop. In other words, we can consume and use a liter of water in 8 hours if we're laying quietly and not doing anything. In 4 hours, if we have a low level of activity, we can lose a liter of water in an hour, in as little as half an hour, or in as little as 15 minutes. You can lose a liter of water in 15 minutes. This is a technique, for example, that I learned when I was wrestling in high school. If I needed to weigh in at a certain weight and I was a couple of pounds higher than, I would put on some sweats. I'd go into the locker room bathroom. I'd turn on the hot showers, and I would run around and do jumping jacks and sweat the water away. I would wrap aluminum foil around my legs, under my sweats, and around my tummy. And in 15 minutes, I could lose a kilo of water. Weigh myself in, drink a liter of water, and I'm at peak performance again, ready to go out and win my wrestling match. So it's very important to learn, once again, you're a subjective scientist. Your body is a unique individual thinking, feeling body that consumes and releases water under different conditions. And learning to be thirsty before you need water. Drinking, always having a glass of water before leaving a source of water to go out on the road or for a meal or even to go out for a drink or to go out for a run or for an extreme experience. You bring along the amount of water that you need in order to be able to, over a 24-hour period, stay at peak performance. And at the very least, stay at good level performance. And what you want to avoid is going into the caution or danger zones. And this is something that only you can figure out for yourself. It just requires paying attention to yourself and how you consume water under different conditions. All right, so here's an example of what low hydration levels would look like. So let's say that you went to bed and you had a glass of water and you woke up and you were at peak performance and at the bottom of it. And you had a glass of water, a glass of juice, and you also had a coffee. And then you went out and you didn't think about drinking water for a couple of hours. Well, the coffee, the caffeine in certain beverages acts as a diuretic. So you sweat water, you lose water, and you start to feel thirsty because you start to feel a little tired and thirsty and headachy. So you drink some water, and now you're at good level. So you feel good because you just drank some water. And what you don't know is that you could have drank a little more and gotten yourself up to here. But so you stay here, and then you drop back down, and you're busy at work, you're studying, you're busy at your work, whatever you're doing, and you start to get really tired. So you feel dizzy, you drink some water, and you stay here. And then most people are kind of at this level. And when you're at this level, your body goes into hypnagogic state. And then at some point you'll feel really tired, and then you'll drink something, you'll eat something, some fruit, something that hydrates you enough to bring you to good levels. And a lot of people just stay at this level. And this affects your performance tremendously. Just like having inappropriate blood sugar levels with spikes and drops. The same thing can happen with water. And between having poor blood sugar levels and having low hydration levels, we're losing 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of our capacity to function, of our peak performance. So this is something really to be mindful of. And once again, you figure it out by studying yourself, by bringing awareness to your hydration levels, so that you can figure out how to stay at peak performance.